Rich Eisen's got a beard, or rumor has it. I watched last night the NFL Network, and Rich goes, what do you think of the beard? And I said, that's an accident. Is that a vacation beard you had on last night, Rich?
It's a pro day beard, Dan. It's my pro day beard. You know?
I thank God I had high definition because I couldn't tell.
Oh, come on now. I mean, I did this once before, years ago, I think year 2 of Sports Center, when I came back from a 10-day vacation and had to decide to go on the air with it. They had to draw in the connecting parts between the mustache and the beard to make it a full goat, and that was one and done. But you were in the minority on this one, Dan.
Oh,
I got to tell you.
Come on, everybody's going to be nice to you.
That's not true. Twitter is a nasty, nasty place to see.
I know that.
To see what people think of the facial hair in real time, Dan. You got to have a thick skin to be hosting a 3-hour show in that sort of regard.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I applaud the effort there.
You do?
Yes, you committed to it.
I did.
It's great.
Well, I pre-taped the John Elway portion at 1 o'clock, about 4 hours, 1 o'clock Pacific, about 4 hours before we aired. So that was it. It was in the shoot right then and there. You can't go beard in the B block and then have the rest of the 3-hour show be clean shaven. Just can't do it. So I was committed 4 hours before the show.
I know you're a Yankee apologist. Michael Pineda with the pine tar. Is pine tar cheating, Rich?
Of course it is, Dan.
Okay.
It is. But it's an acceptable form of cheating where essentially, and that's the crazy thing about Pineda, is that all he had to do is just be a little more discreet. I mean, the Red Sox were essentially saying, go ahead, we saw you do it with your hand. Just don't make us look like idiots, okay? And then, in honor of it, though, Dan, I have put pine tar on my neck so I can have a better grip of the phone on this conversation.
Thank you.
Because it's a little chilly out. It's about 50 degrees here in the California morning.
Oh, listen to you, soft.
I don't want to go. I know. I just don't want, to drop the phone here, so.
Are gloves cheating in the NFL?
No.
Should they be considered?
No, of course not.
Okay, all right.
No, I mean, it's like 5 degrees out sometimes.
Well, what happens if it's not 5 degrees?
Well, I mean, sometimes you need a better grip on the football. That's fine. So, I mean, it's something that you can see. It's an actual piece of apparel. It's not some sticky substance that you put on his neck. How do you get that off, by the way?
I think that was the least of his worries, that if he was going to get it on.
You know what I thought of when I saw the video of it, because it happened, I think, like 2 minutes before we went on the air for the scheduled show last night. And I thought of the Naked Gun scene where Enrico Palazzo goes out and checks the pitcher. He finds the nail file. Then he finds, like, the power drill. And then he looks under and he sees an actual jar of Vaseline under the cap. Then he taps him on the butt. Okay, you're good to go. You remember that scene.
He's Rich Eisen from the NFL Network, host of the Rich Eisen podcast with the Rams GM Les Snead and the Cardinals Larry Fitzgerald. RichEisen.nfl.com and iTunes. When the NFL makes out the schedule, do you think that they look at certain matchups? Is it made for TV, these matchups? Are we being fair to all of the teams, or do you think that, sort of like March Madness, I feel like they go out of their way to create interesting matchups at interesting times during the tournament? Do you think that happens with the NFL?
Well, the matchups, as you know, are already determined. That's sort of the crazy thing about the schedule show, is the minute the season's over, everybody knows who plays who and who plays who where. That's decided the day after the season, because 14 of the 16 games are decided on a rotational basis. Everybody knows who plays who in the division. That happens every year. And then once every 3 years is when you play each division in your conference and out of conference. And the only 2 games that are different between your schedule and the rest of your teams in your division are the 2 games against teams that finished in the same place as you did in the other divisions that you're not playing on a rotational basis within your conference, if that makes any sense. So you know what it is. The question is just the when and the what channel. And that's what gets revealed, and in what order, obviously. That's the crucial aspect of it, too. So, I mean, there's no made-for-TV matchups, but you do take the best matchups And clearly they gave him to NBC. There's no doubt about it that they're not telling any tales out of school, that Sunday Night Football is the top dog, not only in the sport, but television. I mean, it's the number one show on TV. So
well
clearly
said. Well said.
Again?
Well said.
Well, I'm Dan, you know what? Clearly it does have to do with the multiple hosts on that network, with a family of hosts that's getting larger. I know. So, but clearly the league.
Wait. Are you saying I'm getting fatter?
No, I'm not. I didn't say you're bigger in the community.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is the Josh Elliott, the elephant in the room.
Well, I'm just saying, Dan. I mean, you asked me the other day who should see Josh in the rearview mirror biggest.
I'm not afraid.
I know. Listen, you are who you are. It is what it is, as they say. So
it always is what it is.
It never isn't what it isn't. That's correct.
I'm not concerned about Josh Elliott. If he comes in to complement the show, then great.
Yes. Well, I think that's what he's being brought in for, isn't he?
I have no idea. Nobody's told me anything, which maybe should make me nervous.
Well,
but...
no, that's just, as you know, par for the course in our business, Dan.
Oh,
it's true.
Okay.
But anyway, long story short.
Tell me some stories.
NBC does get the best games. There's no question. I mean, Thanksgiving night.
That's pretty good.
Is monstrous. It's the game of the year. And it's interesting that they put the one on Thanksgiving night in San Francisco. Because everybody's been getting boat raced in Seattle on national television. So that's the one that they put on Thanksgiving night. There's some incredibly compelling games on NBC, but there's also some really good ones on Thursday Night Football. The Thursday Night Football starts with Pittsburgh and Baltimore in Baltimore, and 14 of the 16 games on Thursday Night Football between CBS and my network are division games. So they do take the most compelling matchups, or at least what you believe to be prior to the season, and throw them in front of the biggest audiences.
All right, we're going to come back. I promised you 2 segments.
You did. You're a man of your word, Dan.
Hell yes, I am.
That's part of the reason why I love you, Dan.
Thank you, Rich.
You're welcome.
The guys reminded me about it. I forgot about it. Merrill Hodge of the Mothership in the echo chamber said Jadeveon Clowney is atrocious.
Atrocious.
An atrocious player.
Huh.
What does that mean to you when you hear Jadeveon Clowney is an atrocious player, bad footwork and fundamentals?
Everybody's got an opinion, clearly, and the extra 2 weeks are going to be a long 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I would just love it when the Texans make the selection, if they just put the word atrocious on the card, and the commissioner says, with the first overall pick in the draft, the Houston Texans select atrocious. And then Jadeveon Clowney comes out in nonchalance, the acceptance of the jersey, because that would just play into every narrative that we've heard about him between, I guess, the first snap of last season to, or the minute after he blew up Vincent Smith of my Wolverines in the bowl game 2 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that was his final, that was his walk-off moment, basically saying, I'm ready for the draft. But, then you hear Les Snead said just on the podcast this week that he disagrees with the notion that the tape this year on Clowney was bad, that there were a lot of double teams on Clowney, that a lot of people ran away from him. So you could sit there and look at that and go, well, he didn't have the motor enough to fight through all that stuff. I got the sense talking to Les that he would love if the Texans agreed with Merrill Hodge's assessment of Clowney and chose somebody else.
But don't you think this is all media-driven, where the media saw the hit on Michigan and in the bowl game and immediately said he's the front runner for the Heisman, and then you just get people who don't do their homework. He had 3 tackles in the game. It's an unbelievable hit, but it defined him. And then when he didn't live up to the media's expectation, they took it out on Jadeveon Clowney.
I wouldn't blame it all on the paparazzi here, Dan. I mean, your previous guest on your show, Spurrier, when he came on NFL Network a few weeks ago and basically went, when asked about his work ethic, that was his general assessment. It's good. I mean, he didn't help matters either. I mean, that's when the narrative of his work ethic really exploded in the talent evaluation portion of the NFL calendar.
How do you have the Mothership go to his pro day? Mm-hmm. Teddy Bruschi played at a very high level. Teddy Bruschi couldn't contain himself after the pro day. Todd McShay, they they saw something that just in wonderment, that he jumped over beanbags. He was, moving into pass coverage. Like, they saw something that was so unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you have that, and then you have Merrill Hodge say that he's atrocious. Maybe somewhere in between there.
Is the truth?
Right?
Possibly.
Right, he's somewhere in between.
Yeah. I mean, Mayock, listen, I'm not going to bash anyone else's coverage. I only know mostly best about our coverage and what makes people tick. And we take our cue from Mayock. Mayock says he could be the best player in the game if he wants to be. And I think that is the best assessment of Clowney that there is, that his tape is incredible. His physical workouts, his abilities are off the charts. The question is what beats inside. And how big is his heart?
So he's a gamble, Rich.
Well, I guess, but he's the best, I think, the best gamble that's out there in the draft. I mean, if you were the Houston Texans, Dan, and you know you have got to go hunt Andrew Luck for perhaps the next decade and a half, why wouldn't you stick him out there with J.J. Watt and just go hunt him?
Well, I think that Khalil Mack makes more sense for that defense.
But this isn't draft day. You can't take Mack number one overall. You know what I mean? You can't go linebacker number one overall. You just can't do it. Not with Clowney sitting there, not with all these quarterbacks sitting there. You just cannot do it.
So you would rather take the chance that Clowney doesn't live up to being a number one pick overall than a guy who could be in your lineup for the next 10 years.
Or Rick Smith can work the phones and see if maybe the Bucs are interested in Clowney.
Or the Falcons.
Falcons or covet him at 6. Then you trade down, you take Mack there, and you're in business. You got extra picks. It's all good.
All right.
I mean, I don't know who's going to do that, but that would be the plan.
All right, let me get to this. Let me get to this last topic here. The rookie that would be a difference maker with the schedule. That we would look at a game differently, or maybe
that's a no-brainer, Dan.
It's only Manziel.
Yes.
That's it.
Absolutely. I mean, who else would you tell me? Listen,
Clowney's the only other guy.
You are the network with the flexing.
Yes.
Okay. Well, now there's cross flexing, which is a great workout here as well. You got to hydrate before you cross flex.
I heard the line last night.
Okay.
Okay.
But listen, I could repeat it.
Don't recycle it.
These are not the same audiences. It's not recycled. It's still fresh. It's 24 hours.
All right.
So Johnny Manziel is the only guy you would want to flex into. I think so. I mean, he is. If he's sitting there at 3 and Jacksonville needs a quarterback, and they want to take the tarp off some of those seats in the upper deck, I mean, that would be the no-brainer pick. It really would to me. But who knows what will happen when they're sitting there at 3. As Les Snead said, he's gotten some flirtatious calls for the number 2 overall pick by this. At this point, nothing definite. As I asked him, do you have an idea of what the market for that pick would be yet? And he said no. So in essence, there is no buy it now button that the Redskins were able to press 2 years ago for that pick. Clearly, if anybody throws 3 number 1s at him this time, you could buy it now. But that has not developed yet. It does appear that everybody's going to stay put. But we do have 14 days to go.
All right. Nice beard. Great coverage last night.
Thank you, DP.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Adios.
That's Rich Eisen, host of NFL Game Day Morning, the Rich Eisen podcast on the NFL Network, and the proud owner of a bad beard.